Welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello and welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all your comments and submissions and thoughts, and love coming my way. We are absolutely enjoying the summertime up here in Montana, and we've had a great opportunity to enjoy our rodeos and our outdoors and our horses and all those other great things that we do up here. Haven't spent much time fishing, but if you want to come up, I'd be happy to go fishing with you. So we've talked a little bit about politics. If you've listened to my other show, Liberty or Lose, we've had a number of great people on the show over there, like John Fuller, Derek Skis, some people from the school system. But as it relates to the answer is yes, I always find it fascinating when people decide to go into politics, why, how they got there, where they came from. And today's one of those days where I want to interview somebody that's in politics for this show, and we can understand a lot more about what goes through somebody's mind as they decide to jump in for the first, second, third. I don't know. Let's find out how many times. But I've got Dr. Al here live in my studio. How are we today?
Hey, Jim, I'm doing just great.
Now, people always call you Dr. Al. Is that because your last name is so hard to pronounce?
Well, it's not that it's hard to pronounce. It's just if you see it spelled, then it throws people off. The name is Olszewski. But the way it's spelled, it's Olszewski. It's the Polish pronunciation. Other people, when looking at it, might say Olszewski or Olszewski or something like that. So all my life, it has thrown off teachers. It's thrown off principals. It's thrown off everybody. So I become Dr. O, Dr. Al. In the military, I was Oz.
Perfect.
So.
Well, the nature of this show is talking about really how our lives began and how we got to where we're at today. And I would love to hear some background on you. Were you an early entrepreneur, or did you decide to go into something early on because of family influence? But take us back to whatever point in your younger age and walk us through your life a little bit, because ultimately I want to find out why you decided to get into politics now.
Man, oh man, how far to go back? I mean, I've got several decades behind me, Jim.
We've talked about lemonade stands out front of the house when kids were 8.
My goodness. Well, I guess, I was born and raised in Great Falls, Montana. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. My dad was a floor installer, puts in carpet, tile, linoleum. Mom was a homemaker back in the 60s and the 70s. And then she became a nurse after my sister, number 4, graduated from college in nursing. She read the textbooks at home while she was raising her last 3 kids at home and said, you know what? I want to be a nurse. And so she went to College Great Falls and became an LPN. So, my family taught me a couple things, and that was number one is honor your family. Mm-hmm. Do your best and serve your community. And we did that through our church. We did that whether it was through Boy Scouts, whether it was through Key Club or through the high school service sports. So that was that's the basics. Following what our families did. I'm a third, fourth generation, depending on which side of the family you want to talk about. Homesteaders of Montana. Mm-hmm. So my family, we homesteaded Blaine County, north on the High Line, north of Harlem, Montana. It's a metropolis up there. And then also east of Great Falls in Blaine County, a place called Rainsford. And my cousins are still producing on those homesteads. So, and I also had a grandfather who came over from Czechoslovakia at 11 years old, and he was mining coal in Tracy, Montana for the Great Northern Railroad. So, a family was tied to the land, and we believed that we needed to serve our country. And we did so in so many ways as a family.
Yeah. You hear so many people that come to town or live here or relatively new here talk about Montana values. And just in your brief description of your upbringing, I hear that screams Montana values: homestead, work the land, giving back, being a part of your church and all the other organizations in your local city. Is that really what Montana values are, or do you see it differently? And are those values that you still see today?
The values of Montana, because everyone throws out, it's the Montana way. You hear it, and the definition is important. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you right here, right now, what we're dealing with and why so many people have migrated into Montana is that they want to be free. Mm-hmm. And they would like people to be polite. And we are. We can argue with our neighbors and sometimes to fisticuffs. But if your neighbor is having an issue, you help out. You stand up and you serve your neighbor. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we've done forever. People wonder why you wave at somebody as they're driving by on the road. I love this, is that people go, hey, why is it that people keep raising up their hands and say, well, we're waving at each other. So why would you do that? Yeah. And the joke that I tell them is say, we just want to make sure they don't have a gun in that hand. It's usually the right hand, so we know. But the truth is that, you're being friendly, and throwing up your hand also lets people know that you're paying attention. Yeah. We pull over at 20 below zero and help somebody on the side of the road or in the middle of the night. We just don't call on the cell phone and ask AAA to show up in the middle of Montana. That could be 4 hours from there. Yeah. So we stop and we say, hey, how can we help you? Yeah. And then if they wave us off, they wave us off. It's right.
It's funny you say that. I was in the Costco parking lot yesterday. Yes, we have one here in Montana. There was a homeless guy there, and he really looked like he was struggling as we were pulling into the parking lot. And my wife says, I think he's having a trouble. I said, oh, I didn't see. She goes, pull around. Let's go see if he needs help. By the time we got back to help him, just going briefly through the parking lot, there was already 2 other cars or people out helping this man. And to your point, right, we just want to help, or we're willing to pull over and offer a hand.
Well, and it's not a hand out, it's a hand up.
Yeah.
It's trying to get you back on your feet and move forward. And so when we talk about Montana way of life, it's living free, having the ability to make a decision for yourself and your family and live by those consequences. Now, if for issues that are outside your ability, you know what? We're going to stand up and we're going to help you, whether it's fixing fence, whether it's helping you change a flat tire, it's getting you to the hospital, or bringing you a meal. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're doing it. Our goal is to help your neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know I jumped off track there, but once you got out of the house, did you go into military, college, both?
Oh, I went to college at Carroll College in Helena, Montana. A great school that taught the classical Western culture, liberal arts, if you want to use that word. And so I became a biologist, mm-hmm. but not a Bachelor of Science in biology. I have a Bachelor of Arts in biology. So I studied classical Western thinking, and we're challenged constantly on that. And then from there, as a senior year. So I guess jump back. When I joined college, my freshman year, I turned 18 in college. I was pretty young. So I turned 18 in college in 1980, and my first vote was for president was Ronald Reagan. I mean, think about it. We had Jimmy Carter, who promised us 17% inflation. The price of gas was atrocious for the value of the dollar. And everything was, just get used to it. This is the new America. And Reagan stood up and he told us, he says, we don't have to have this. Yeah. We can go back to freedom and self-determination, and we will be a vibrant economy. So, hey, I came from a Mike Mansfield Democrat family. But in 1980, my Mike Mansfield Democrat family became Republican and voted for Ronald Reagan. So, and that was telling my parents, look, do you want this, or would you like to try something different? What do you got to lose? Yeah. So when in 1984, I was a senior in college, and Ronald Reagan had been saying, look, we got to stop the evil empire. The Cold War was going on. We were fighting Russia, our enemy, our adversary. And I rose to that call, and I joined the United States Air Force and became a second lieutenant and swore my oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, both foreign and domestic.
So, it's interesting that you were so young talking politics with your parents. What was the reception at that age and their beliefs that they had at the time?
Boy, I'll tell you, it wasn't that there was a controversy, but there was sort of a, our family has always been Democrat. Ever since we've come to this country, we have voted because the Democrats have been the party for the people, for the farmer. And that was the way it was, and so we did talk about the economy at the time. We did talk about, my dad being the single wage earner with 7 kids in 1980. It was, and watching his buying power of the dollar, because I'll tell you, a floor installer was not even in the middle class with 7 kids at home.
Yeah.
And so his earning power was eroding in front of him. I mean, so it was very apparent. We were going from a family that actually lived below the federal poverty level, but still was able to pay a mortgage on a small 1,100 square foot house and pay for insurance. But that was disappearing. So that was the argument. Do you want to lose the ability to take care of yourself and take care of this family and be dependent on the government? Because that was definitely not what my family was about, or my grandparents, or my aunts and uncles. We pull our way, and we take care of ourselves, and we take care of our family. We do not let the government, become our family, and we don't let them take care of us. So that was the push.
Yeah.
And the reasoning for them to go, you know what, you're right. We got to do something different, and President Carter is not. He's not doing it.
There's a lot of parallels to what you're talking about to what's going on today.
That's right. Joe Biden is Jimmy Carter 2.0. There is no doubt. For someone, again, the classic is watching gas prices go up. We went from being an energy independent country that was exporting energy, and Joe Biden basically cut us off at the knees and castrated us, and has now put us dependent again on Saudi Arabia and even on Russia for our oil supplies.
It's amazing when you talk to the Democrats in this state that are, whether they're new or they've been here a long time, but they feel like, hey, things are going the way they're supposed to be going, and they'll complain about the gas prices in one hand, but we know where their vote went in the other hand.
Absolutely. Or the big one up here again is, especially in Missoula County, which is just 2 hours south of us. That's the Democrat stronghold in east or western Montana. And their big thing is what do we do about affordable housing? The federal government, the state government has to give us money so we can subsidize this price of housing. It's like, no. What we need to do is we have to get affordable building materials out of the forest for which you're surrounded, and take that money that we're using to fight the fires as we're burning up building supplies. And we also need to talk about how we pay for kindergarten through high school education, which is property taxes. It's 70% of our property taxes. It's out of control, and it's killing people trying to pay for a house and a mortgage. So there's a lot of things that we have to do. It's get the government out of the business of dealing with saying no to natural resources, saying no to reasonable and practical ways for us to pay for our public education.
Yeah. Talk about your career path and some of the directions that you went within your career, because I think it speaks a lot of who you are, especially now as you're running for this position.
Well, going back again, I was a biologist. My goal was, when you grow up in the 60s and 70s, it's the world of adventure and exploration.
Yeah.
You had the space program. We were going to the moon. We had, we had Jacques Cousteau, exploring the oceans, and they were on television. And remember, people, we only had 2 television channels, only 2. In Montana and Great Falls, it was Channel 3 and Channel 5. So when these shows came on, you absorbed them, and you couldn't rewind them.
Yeah.
So if they came out on Sunday night, you watched them, and it did set a sense of adventure. It stimulated people in the 60s and the 70s, students to study science and math and do STEM professions. And that's what got me involved. Whether it was did I want as a little kid to be an astronaut or a marine biologist, I got very interested in science and math. But in college, studying Western civilization and studying classical